Now, to a man who broke my phone. I tweeted for questions for the actor Tom Hiddleston, and I've never seen anything like it, the response we actually got. He's a UNICEF ambassador. He is just back from South Sudan, seeing how children are coping with the terrible civil war there. Tom was on the programme in May, you may remember, after his first trip. A lot of people asking today about the child soldiers he told us about and the extraordinary reunions he had witnessed with their families. Tom, welcome back to the programme. You're just back, you were telling me, over the weekend. Just tell me some of the things, in terms of meeting some of those children, what has stuck in your mind?
Well, so many things, Matthew. First of all, thank you for having me back. I think I should probably start by just giving a little history of the country, because I think that people don't know much about it. And I think that can put into context some of the things that I've seen with the children there. South Sudan is the youngest country in the world. It declared independence from Sudan in 2011, and it enjoyed 2 years of peace. And then in December 2013, the current president, a man called Salva Kiir Mayardit, fell out with his deputy, called Dr. Riek Machar, and they are from two different ethnic groups, and so the whole country was divided in a terrible civil war that was split along ethnic lines. And what really happens in physical reality is that the major cities become battle zones, gunfire, gunships, artillery shelling, and all the people, women and children, are driven into the countryside.
So millions displaced, you have thousands separated from their own families.
That's
you
right.
have child soldiers that we talked about last time you were here. Now, I gather on this trip you met with two boys, you said 2013 when it started, who've been separated from their mother.
That's right.
And they've been able to trace the family, or the fragment parts of the family. Has that meeting actually happened, the reunion there?
It hasn't, and it will soon. What happened is that when fighting broke out 3 years ago, and actually we're coming up to a third anniversary of a sort of the Civil War, and these two boys called Bom and Jal, Bom is 12, Jal is 9, and they were separated from their mother. As happens, I mean, when fighting breaks out, it's chaos. That's the physical reality of it. And they ran in one direction, their mother ran in another, and they haven't seen each other for 3 years. And that is the cost of the civil war on these innocent children, is that they're separated. And in a civil war, the family is the safest place for a child to be. But UNICEF has a tracing program, and it takes time and it takes money. But they found the mother of these two boys, and at the minute they're in a camp for what they call internally displaced persons in the north of the country, but they're going to be reunified soon.
So soon. Now, let's go through some of the questions so many of our viewers have been sending in. We're going to put up a few of the tweets, and there's the first one from Edith. What changes have you noticed since you last have been there? Oh,
that's a really interesting question. In July this year was the 5th anniversary of independence, and on the 7th, 8th and 9th there was terrible renewed outbreaks of fighting in the capital city of Juba. I first visited the country in February of 2015, and the dangerous areas were actually the north of the country, in the Upper Nile region. But when I went back this time, the southern part of the country has become incredibly dangerous. You can feel it, truly.
And when you say dangerous, that brings me to the next question, which I'll paraphrase, but one of the questions was, what are the greatest dangers that children actually face? What is it that threatens them, puts them at most peril?
I think it's that they're separated from their families, and that makes them vulnerable to all kinds of abuse. If you run from a city because it's unsafe, you run into the bush, and there's no water there, there's no food, there are certainly no schools, and you become vulnerable to forced recruitment from local militia, which have risen up as the country's become more unstable. So young boys are at risk of becoming recruited as child soldiers. Young girls become recruited as well to serve as slaves or cooks, and that is, no child should have to go through that. of anyone else's opinion of me. It's a long time ago I had to give that up. I can only control my own actions and what I do and what I say, and in a way I take comfort in that.
And it's possible, is it, to just shunt the rest of it to one side, as you're suggesting? That's possible? You can do that?
It takes a little getting used to, but yeah. I'm not the first and I shan't be the last.
A last tweet. Let me put it up on the board because it's a fantastic one. When was the last time you laughed so hard your belly hurt?
Goodness. It was in South Sudan, actually. I did witness a reunification, which I found very moving. I had a conversation with a father who was more humble and more grateful, I think, than anyone I've ever seen. And it was from UNICEF's tracing program. He had left. He really had thought his child was dead, and he was hilarious as well. He's kept conjuring all these outlandish gifts he wanted to give me, and I kept having to say, please, you don't have to give me anything, this is enough. But he made me laugh a lot.
Well, what an extraordinary pleasure to be able to witness an extraordinary moment like that. Tom Hiddleston, thank you so much for coming in and talking around a range of, they all say answering the public's questions are the hardest, and some of the ones they've thrown in. So look, thank you so much for joining us, and perhaps when you go again, you'll come back again.
My pleasure.
Now, stay with us because still to come here on Today's Global, for the first time in